You are making the world a better place by listening to the Joy of Living podcast. This is your guide to achieving a more purposeful, powerful, and positive life. Join Barry Shore in unlocking the best version of you and becoming happier, healthier, and wealthier. And now, here's your ambassador of joy, Barry Shore.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. You'll be good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance because you have tuned in consciously and conscientiously to the Joy of Living with your humble host, Barry Shore, known as the Ambassador of Joy. Notice I didn't say the Ambassador of Joy. It's the Ambassador of Joy. And you tuned into this program for one reason and one reason only. It's the best reason in the whole world because you care the most in the entire world about you. Y-O-U, which is great because when you become the best you make the world a better place. You build more bridges of harmony. You create more joy, happiness, peace, and love in the world. And that's why you're here, joined by approximately 503,000 people around the world, all over. Tune in because they care about themselves. Because you know that on this show, we discuss the three fundamentals of life. When you utilize, internalize, and leverage these three fundamentals of life, you will be happier, healthier, and wealthier. Who doesn't want that? Now, the three fundamentals are, number one, life. Your life has purpose. And when you lead a purpose-driven life, number two happens. In this case, good number two, you go MAD. Now, MAD is a wonderful acronym. It stands for make a difference. Lead a purpose-driven life, you make a difference in the world. And the third is to unlock the power and the secrets of everyday words and terms. Simple example, right now, this show is carried around the world. Hundreds of thousands of people listening and is using the internet. Now, if you ask anybody, what does www stand for? In fact, people will say it has to do with the internet. Now, factually speaking, they're correct. However, in our world, the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, www stands for what a wonderful world. And what is a word, right? W-H-A-T-A. And of course, a tip of the hat and a big thank you to Louis Armstrong Satchmo for enabling that song, What a Wonderful World, to go viral. And not just to touch tens of millions or hundreds of millions, but billions of people around the planet. So whenever you hear the opening bars of What a Wonderful World, you can't help it. What do you do? You smile. Now, smile is one of the most important words you could ever internalize, utilize, and leverage in your life because smile stands for seeing miracles in life every day. Wow. Now, I got to tell you, I am privileged to speak to people on a regular basis around the world, millions of people in the course of a month. And I do a lot of in-person speaking. I spoke recently with a group of 1,172 people. And I'm telling the story about Barry Shore. I'm talking about seeing miracles in life every day. And some people raise their hand and say, hey, Barry Shore, I've been up for hours. I haven't seen any miracles. And I asked them, are you here? Can you hear? Can you stand still? I can't do that. Can you walk? I can barely do that. Do you have water to drink? Do you have food to eat? Do you have a place to sleep? Do you have family? Do you have friends? Every single one of those is a miracle. And what's the proof? Simple as proof. 1 million people didn't get out of bed this morning. You know why? They died. By definition, if you're watching or listening, you didn't. Therefore, you have an obligation to live life to the full, live exuberantly. Let me tell you a quick story. It's about me. Imagine I'm standing in the morning, completely healthy and hearty, able to leap tall buildings with a single bound. And that evening, I'm in the hospital, totally, completely paralyzed from my neck down. Not from an automobile accident, not a spinal injury. It was a rare disease, which I never heard of the day before, took over my body and caused me to become what's called a quadriplegic. Nothing in my body moved. I can only communicate by blinking my eyes. I was 144 days in the hospital. I was in a hospital bed in my own home for 2 years. I couldn't move. 4 years in a wheelchair. I had braces on both my legs, my hips, my ankles. That was progress. Thank God today I'm able to be vertical and ambulatory with the help of a 7-foot walking wand. So I'm a triped, not a biped. Can't walk up a stair by myself. Can't walk up a curb by myself. Help 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. However, you hear my voice. Positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant. All because of one word. One word. Smile. Seeing miracles in life every day. Now, I got to tell you a quick story. My 8-year-old niece comes over to me a few weeks ago and she says, Uncle Barry, can we spell smile? Smiel. I thought about it. Smile, smile sounds the same. Why ask her? I said, why not? Why ask her why? She says, because then it would stand for seeing miracles in everyday life. Out of the mouth of an 8-year-old. What was she doing? She was creating the kind of world that she wants to live in. Now, CREATE is a fabulous acronym that stands for causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. And so it's about shifting your perspective just a little bit, and you're going to learn a lot from our amazing, wonderful, fabulous guest today, fabulous Kurt, about shifting your perspective. Now, I got to tell you, I've been working with people for almost 50 years. And when people come to me, highly successful people on paper, they have to learn to drop the F in shift because the other stuff happens. And now you have to learn how to keep that F in place. So when you do that, then you can internalize, utilize, and leverage this. The 6 most important words you'll ever learn, which are choice, not chance, determines your destiny. That's right. How you choose to respond in any given situation will determine your path in life and your trajectory. Now, before we bring on wonderful Kurt, I want to warn him and our new listeners, and thank you. I'm so honored. You're always urging your family and friends to join, and we have every month at least another 25, 30,000 people. So I urge you, keep sharing this with 5 people. You want to do 50 or 100, that's great. But at least 5 people, share it with, urge them to come. So we'll have 1 million within the next probably 6 months, and follow us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and just do it. 5 people, that's it, because then we're touching millions. That's what we're here for, touching millions with the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant message. So before we bring on Kurt, I want to urge everybody to understand I do use a lot of 4-letter words. I even use the 4-letter FU word. I do it because of the shock value and it's fun. Now, of course, the 4-letter words that we use, because we live in the world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant, are love, life, hope, play, pray, free, gift, swim. And the 4-letter FU word is fun. Fun, that's right. F-U, capital N, capital N. Right away, some people saying, hey, Barry, sure, fun's only spelled with 3 letters. Not in our world. The world of the positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant, spelled fun, F-U, capital N. So after the show, when you see your family and friends, they have a twinkle in your eye, a smile on your face, remember that stands for, point your finger and say, F-U, everybody. But remember to add capital N, and say, because you got their attention. You say, what are you talking about? So I listened to Barry Shore, and he had on this amazing guy named Kurt, and he's talking about a whole other way of approaching life. Goodness. Now, before we bring on wonderful Kurt, I want to urge everybody, as I do every show, use the 2 most important words in the English language 3 times a day from now and the rest of your life, and you will be happier, healthier, and wealthier. I guarantee it, and your money back. And these 2 words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. Kind stands for keep inspiring noble deeds. I can't think of anybody that inspires noble deeds more than I want to share with you. The wonderful, fabulous Kurt Luidhart. Wonderful Kurt, please say hello to 507,827 people around the world.
Hello, joy of living. Wonderful to be here.
Well, we're so glad that you are here because you have a message that needs to be shared with the world. And it's really a message about America and how America acts and thinks, and yet it's universal in its application because everybody, I believe, in the world wants to have what we have in America, this freedom, this ability to worship as we want and to buy where we want, to do what we want. So if I started telling everybody about what you do, Kurt, it would take the rest of the show. I'm just going to say 3 things. Number 1, you and your wonderful wife, Kristen, are the founders of something called the Prosper Group, and you are the visionaries behind something called the Liberty Spenders Podcast, which I urge everybody to listen to. Everything about Kurt, by the way, is going to be in the show notes. You don't take any notes. It's just go there and learn everything about. That's number 1. Number 2, you're really focused on something we call the patriot economy, which we'll talk about in depth. And number 3 is that you don't just talk about things and write about things, you actually make stuff happen. You made stuff happen for people as well known as President Donald J. Trump. So with that as an introduction, let's just jump right in and say, wonderful, Kurt. Let's talk about something that's really interesting. People love numbers. They like big numbers. Let's talk about the $5 trillion market for what we call values-driven consumers. So
Yeah.
take it away. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I want to start bigger than that. So there is 62% of all Americans, no matter where they lie on the spectrum of values, say that in the last year, they've made a buying decision as a consumer based on the values of the company they were dealing with, not just the features and benefits of the product they were buying. So this is something almost 2/3 of all American consumers are doing. They're now concerned with and paying close attention to the values of the companies that they're doing business with. We see this in a big scale, for example, right now, with companies like, say, Bud Light, or what Elon Musk is seeing with Tesla right now, where people are making decisions about the products they buy based on the activists or their perceived values of the owners. Now, that's the big picture. Now, the smaller picture is amongst that group is 66%. There's a smaller segment, which I'm intimately familiar with because of my time working for people like Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and Brian Kemp and Pete Ricketts and all sorts of Republican politicians throughout the country. There's a smaller segment of the population that cares about conservative and Christian values. That's 76.5 million consumers who we know are significantly more likely to buy from a business they think matches their conservative or Christian values. And they spend $5 trillion a year on everything from cars to cats to diapers to, they spend money with companies like Amazon. They buy groceries. They're buying everything you might want to sell. But the distinct difference between them and the rest of your consumers is they want to know, where do you stand as a company? How are you spending your profits? What kind of groups are you donating to? How are you making the world a better place in their perspective? And so that's a powerful audience.
Let me interrupt you and unpack a few things. Again, we have, thank God, a worldwide audience. Recently, we got some wonderful emails or texts, however they communicate with, from Bhutan and people throughout Asia and Africa and such, and Latin America. And, again, everybody is looking to America, especially right now, because it's a new administration and things are changing daily. Mm-hmm. And it's an administration that is geared to everything you're saying. So let's just unpack some of these numbers again. $5 trillion is not a small number. And that's
right.
Annual. We're not talking over the course of 10, 20 years. That's $5 trillion in spending annually. You're talking about 62+% minus of the American population, which is 300+ million. So there's a few hundred million people that actually care about something. And now you're telling us, if I understand correctly, that there are approximately 76 million who are truly dedicated and looking at and examining what are the values of this company that I am associated with. In other words, if I have a chance to buy, say, diapers or pet food, I don't know pet foods. I'll use pet food because a lot of people have pets. Pet food. If I can find a company that actually aligns more with what I believe in, well, I will choose to use my money there. Now, that's an amazing edge and advantage if it's done properly. Again, we're not talking about people faking it. Am I correct? We're talking about real companies based on real values. So let's address that.
Yeah. I mean, this is a consumer. I like to describe them. They're the kinds of person who would drive an extra 15 minutes past a Popeyes to eat from Chick-fil-A, right? Because it matches their Christian values. They're closed on Sundays to give their employees that extra day off and that time to attend to their families and go to church, and because their company donates to organizations that support their values. Or they shop at Hobby Lobby versus Michael's. Or instead of buying from Starbucks, they're buying from Black Rifle Coffee Company. And these consumers are even willing to deal with a little bit of inconvenience to make that happen. Starbucks is easier to find than Black Rifle Coffee Company, and sometimes you have to drive a little extra far to get to Chick-fil-A, but they're willing to do it because they buy into those companies and what they stand for. And so that consumer is really powerful. One other interesting thing about this consumer is they're more loyal. Some of these companies, Patriot Mobile, which is a wireless service company based out of Texas, competes with Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T. So the biggest of the big in the world, right? And they have one of the highest, if not the highest, retention rate in the industry. These customers are loyal because they're not just buying into a product or service, but they're buying into you and a larger vision of what you're trying to accomplish as a business owner.
So let's unpack a couple of things here, because using the C word and the L word are absolutely crucial to running a successful business from the point of view, what does a business want? A business wants to service its customers, and
Right.
it wants to see them as more than just a transaction. It wants to see them as a transformational. So for instance, why was this particular coffee company started? Because it has a vision. Why was this particular cell phone company started? It has a vision. It wasn't interested only in transaction. It was interested in what we call transformation. In other words, if I can build a company that serves people that really believe what I believe, and there are more than 2 or 3 of them, well, gee, isn't that a wonderful way to live? And again,
Right.
the genius of the American system, I think, unlike almost any other country in the world, we have such not only a diverse and large population, but a very caring population. Kind, caring people that are dedicated to their values. By the way, on the other side also, there are people who are atheists who are dedicated to their values. It's not about what I hold or you hold. However, they're dedicated to, we'll call it, I don't even like saying overthrowing America. However, they're dedicated to a very different vision of the country.
Right.
So we're talking about people in America who are dedicated and use their pocketbook to espouse these values. This is wonderful. So let's continue and talk about what it means to build a business around values and winning over these, what you call so nicely in your book, and it's a great book. It's called Liberty Spenders. And if you're seeing this, you can see it on Kurt's desk. If you're listening, it's in the show notes, Liberty Spenders. You talk about purpose-driven shoppers. So let's talk about what are these PDFs?
Yeah. Well, Liberty Spenders is what I call this audience, of 76.5 million people who in this case are persuaded by companies who share their conservative and Christian values or religious values. And these folks are elevating your values as a company to just as high or almost as high as does the product work better than your competition. They still want a great product. I think one of the biggest misnomers in this space is you think you can have a values mission and think that that's going to handle it. No, these people still need a product that works and it's good. Chick-fil-A doesn't do well only because it really matches the values of its customers. They have a really killer chicken sandwich, and if they didn't, they wouldn't be thriving. So you these purpose-driven consumers, these Liberty Spenders, we call them, they want to see a good product, but they're going to examine your values as well. And that could include things like, well, what causes are you donating to? How do you treat your employees? That's one of the things that Chick-fil-A does so well. That extra Sunday off, although it causes them a massive loss in revenue, is great for their employees and their owner operators, that they get to spend time with their family and they're not working 7 days a week, right? They're interested in that. They're interested in the kind of statements you make as a company. How do you treat people fairly? Or are you elevating people for employment based on race or other things that they don't approve of? And that's what these kind of consumers are looking for and are paying close attention to. And by the way, it's not just conservative or Christian consumers. That's why I mentioned that 62% number at the beginning. There are a lot of people who are not conservative Christian. You mentioned atheists who are looking for companies that match those values, right? And so this is not a like fringy thing that only applies to people who like Donald Trump, right? This is something that's happening, right? This is a trend that's in the market, whether you like it or not, you know.
On that beautiful note, so I just want to say, talk about trends and market. We, thank God, have sponsors that love our show. We wouldn't have them if we didn't think they're worthy of your time and attention. And we're going to be right back after this brief messages with more Kurt, because this gets to the heart of what I call the American way of life. So we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hello, skincare connoisseurs. If you think you have tried everything in skincare, you are going to love what I am about to tell you. I'm pharmacist Benjamin I. Fuchs. I'm a dermatology pharmacist, and what I've discovered in my compounding pharmacy after decades of working with patients with skin traumas and skin diseases is the missing link in skincare is topical essential nutrition. And because of this missing link, we're not maximizing the potential of topical skincare. We're leaving skin beauty and skin health on the table. And that's why I formulated my Truth Treatments. Listen, the skin's an organ. It needs and wants and craves nutrients, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, fatty acids, and plant-derived minerals, and now it can get them in super high concentrations in my Truth Treatments. Originally formulated for dermatologists and their patients, now they're available to you. Check them out today at truthtreatments.com, and I know you are going to love the truth.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking, so I was looking for and finding the good. Our cup runneth over with good. His name is Kurt Luidhart, and I'm honored to say friend and a very smart man. And again, the key of his smartness is not just him. It's his wife, Kristen. And together as a team, and team stands for together, everyone achieves miracles. They have really built something that is able to go to this vast marketplace called America and begin to segment in a very positive, purposeful, powerful, pleasant way, so that people who are of a particular persuasion can feel comfortable shopping in those areas. As he said, whether it's food like Chick-fil-A or Hobby Lobby, whatever it is that you're looking for, and you have the ability to associate with like-minded, caring people to further the business of America. So let's continue to build upon this, and tell us, what was the inspiration for Liberty Spenders, the book, and what is it that you did specifically, if you can talk about it, learning about what's involved in these statistics by working on political campaigns?
Yeah. You know, a lot of us end up with bucket lists, right? And I had put on my bucket list, I want to write a book one day. But it was one of those things you say and you think, I don't know how I'm ever going to do this, because I don't have the attention span of a person who can sit down and bang out a book. But I got some good advice from a friend and a great publisher, $1 million author, I'll give him a shout out, who really helped us through it, helped us outline what we wanted to say. And I have loved doing it, because if nothing else, it required me to really solidify my thinking, because now I'm putting it in a book, and I would identify holes in different places. And I felt that it was needed, because what I believe is true is we're talking about something that is a marketing trend, if you will, or a value proposition that is going to take the country by storm, probably the world by storm, because this is how consumers are thinking these days. And one reason I say this, and I probably, if I wrote the book over again, I would do a whole chapter on this concept alone. But one of the reasons I say this is because marketing in general has been focused on eyeballs for decades. It's all about, can I get my stuff in front of as many people as possible? And maybe I'll do something quirky or silly to make it happen. I'll make a Doritos ad where, you know, a baby pops out of a belly to try to get a Doritos. And it's kind of funny, and it gets people's attention. But attention has become super cheap right now. It's easy to get. You can do, you can market online and get millions of views of something. Attention is cheaper than it ever used to be, but trust is now more expensive and more difficult than ever, right? And consumers are more skeptical than they used to be. They're looking for sources that they can trust. They're looking for companies they can trust. They're looking for people, media that they can trust. And that is the most difficult thing to do. And I believe that appealing to people on the base of their convictions is one of the best ways to authentic, trustful relationships. And you mentioned this before. It isn't fake. You can't fake it. These consumers who care about these issues can spot a fake a million miles away, right?
Right.
They know when someone's pretending to care about what they care about. But when you're authentically aligned with somebody on convictions, you have this ability to earn a level of trust that is the hardest, most difficult commodity, in my opinion, in business today, is to earn the trust and keep the trust of a consumer. And so if there's one thing out of the book, I probably would have spent a lot of time on that, because I think most marketers are still missing this. Your typical vanilla marketer is going to say, let's get a bunch of eyeballs, but that's easy. And it's not as helpful as it used to be, because you might get people to see your stuff, but they don't trust it, right? They don't trust it. Trust is what you need to be going for.
This is so important. And with your permission, I'm going to tell you, I created an acronym for your name during the break. Can I tell you what it is? Because it's you did it. You ready? So your name, Kurt spells his name Kurt.
Yeah.
So your acronym, sir, is kindness unleashes remarkable trust.
Huh. Oh,
It begins with kindness, because that is an approach to people that people want. Now, they may be a little bit guarded, because everybody's coming there. However, when you, as I said, unleashes remarkable trust, when you get to the level that we have something in our world we call the kilt. And, Scottish men wear a kilt. Well, kilt has these main three letters, KLT. You have to know somebody, like them, and then trust them. You can't get the trust right away just by getting eyeballs, like you said. And this is so important in the helter-skelter world that we live in, called the internet.
Yeah.
Where there's things happening all the time and people bombarding others with messages. Well, are they messages that you want? And see, part of what I think you're helping us with is the idea of values driven, not just value of the product, because in a vast marketplace, you may have 3, 4, 5 competing products, all of equal abilities, by the way.
Yeah.
Equal abilities. And yet I'm going to choose one, and it's not going to be based on price primarily. It's not going to be based on quality of service, because they're all offering that. In other words, the mobile company you mentioned, you can't have a mobile company in this United States of America that doesn't run on the backbone of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. They all, so anything else that exists all rides on those things. So it's not as if you're working with, a second-rate player. It's all riding on the same thing, on the same rails. So now, how do you differentiate? Well, differentiate because I care about what they care about. They care about what I care about. And that's building trust. So I love this, Kurt, because this, to me, harkens back to another time in America, and it harkens to us to listen to go forward. So let's talk about that. What is really transforming the consumer engagement and that you are learning because of this values-driven market? What's transforming how people engage with businesses?
Yeah, we teach this. What we teach is a concept called conviction-driven marketing, right? So the transformational concept here is that, there's almost an extra step in the marketing conversation now. And that extra step is, hey, I want to know who you are and where you stand on on issues of the day. And it's weird. I grew up, I'm sure I heard it from my parents. I can't remember a specific time. I grew up being taught we leave our religion and our politics at home. We don't talk about it at the dinner table, certainly not with strangers. And what I am saying is your consumers, there's this step now, the transformation is your potential customers are asking. They're researching. It's all available online. So you might as well be open about it and choose where you want to plant your flag. And there's all kinds of variety in how you can do that. We mentioned Black Rifle Coffee earlier. They were founded by two American veterans who cared about other veterans, wanted to hire veterans, wanted to support veterans. And, they're Black Rifle Coffee, so you can imagine they were people who owned guns. But they supported an issue that really transcends all parts of our political scene. Everyone, no matter where you are in the spectrum, cares about veterans and wants to see them prosper and are concerned about some of the modern challenges that veterans have when they come home from a war zone. So they picked an issue, something they valued that was really, universal, but tilted a little bit center right, if you will. But that's how they captured this audience of Liberty spenders and and when they went public a couple years back, went public for over $1 billion in valuation, competing against in one of the hardest markets in the world, right?
Talk about a crowded marketplace.
Yeah. And it's all on. So that's the transformational piece of it is your consumers are now really wanting to know, right? And that adds an extra step in the process. But if you can be proactive about it, you can use that to your advantage and gain an advantage over your competition.
So let's talk about shift and political arena. Because you specifically, you and Kristen are avowedly, openly helping Republican candidates.
Yeah.
To the exclusion of Democratic candidates. Let's be blunt.
Yeah.
And so you can drop some names. Have you ever helped any well-known Republican candidates?
Yeah, I mean, over the 18 years we've been in business, we've helped elect over 100 members of Congress, 15 governors, 15 U.S. senators, one president who is currently president, Donald Trump. But we've also worked for senators that people would know, like Ted Cruz and Governor Brian Kemp and Governor, now U.S. Senator Pete Ricketts, and our own home state governor here in Indiana, Mike Braun, and our former governor, Mike Pence, who became vice president, and a whole host of other really great people that we've had a chance to work for through the years. And what we primarily did for them and why we found so much of our experience to be transferable was it's become increasingly more expensive to run for office. And so candidates are much more reliant now on everyday Americans contributing to their campaigns. $25, $35, $50, $100, $250. And every big nationwide candidate is seeking those kinds of contributions. And so our specialty for years has been crowdfunding, if you will, in the political space for these politicians. We've raised over $500 million online. It's probably running closer to $600 million now, including $60 million for Trump's campaign in 2016 and $38 million last year for Ted Cruz, from average everyday Americans giving $25, $35, $45.
So let's unpack a couple of things here. The process of raising money for political candidates, at least the way it seems to me, is I'm trying to use nicer words. It has to do with bombarding people with a message that says, we need you. If you don't do this, we're not going to win. And therefore, liberty goes out the door, et cetera, et cetera. Sort of, as we used to say in the insurance business, even though I was never in the insurance business, but I worked with people. I helped train a lot of people. You have to back the hearse up to the door. If you don't do that, people don't take action.
Right.
To pull the trigger. Is it still the same way in politics that you need to emphasize what happens if we don't win?
Yeah, I mean, one of the advantages of political fundraising is there's an absolute complete deadline, right? You can't procrastinate if you want to support a politician, because the election is over and it's over forever, right? Giving money to Ted Cruz 2 months later is completely not relevant to his victory in November. And so one of the elements that works really well for political fundraising is our absolute deadlines everybody knows coming. But the other one is understanding the stakes, because what we're asking people to do is give their hard-earned money to a politician and never see it again, right?
Well, wait a minute. Those are very big words, what you just said, Kurt. Right? It's like pouring money into a hole.
Yeah. I used to joke. Sometimes I joke that what I do for a living is I sell a product that nobody wants, that they have to buy at an inconvenient time in an inconvenient place that's guaranteed not to deliver, and that's a politician, right? So you're asking a lot. People are giving from their savings. They're giving money that they could use on providing for their family or saving for their retirement to donate to a politician. So they have to understand the stakes. And of course, people are often motivated by concerns. What happens if the other side wins? And so both sides are really good at ginning people up. That has generated some of the negative effects we're seeing right now, where the population is so certain that, whether it's Donald Trump or Kamala Harris, who would have won, and Trump did, was that the whole world was going to go kablooey. But one of the most wonderful things about our American system, and you're seeing it today, right now, as Trump tries to do a lot of big things, is that there are tons of checks and balances on our politicians. It's one of the brilliances of our founding fathers. In other countries, and I've done work internationally, that's just not true. You can get elected in a number of countries and have almost complete control over public policy. And Trump still has to contend with a Congress where he has a very slim majority in the House. He's got to contend with the judiciary, which wants to challenge some of what he's doing. He's got to contend with the bureaucracy, which maybe he shouldn't. He's got to contend with the states. And so we have a wonderfully distributed system, which is one of the most wonderful things about America that I think is super underappreciated. But back to your point, what tends to generate these small dollar contributions is people's concern. Well, if the other person wins, my taxes are going to go up. My business is going to get regulated out of existence. They're going to shut me down and force me to get vaccinated. And that's what gets people out of bed and willing to contribute.
Let me ask you this. From the point of view of a campaign, because you've been in this for, like you said, 18 years, where is the bulk of money? If you have to take 100%, is it 30% that comes from donors that give under, let's say, $250 a year?
Yeah.
Is it 50%, 70%? Is most of the money big money? Where does the bulk of the money come from?
Well, it depends a little bit on the campaign. If I remember from 2008, I think President Obama raised about half his money from small dollar contributors. So it was about 50-50. Trump in 2016 was actually higher, raised more money from small dollar contributors than major donors. Trump never really went out and did the big solicitations for the giant donors. And so a lot of his money came from average everyday Americans. And then with the advent of these outside groups, a candidate might raise a lot more money from smaller contributors, but then have an outside group that came from a large donor. What's interesting about large donors versus small dollar donors is we've been concerned for decades in this country that large dollar donors might have outsized influence over politicians because they might gain some advantage in government contracts or get something they want by contributing large amounts of money to politicians. And so we've instituted all these restrictions on how much money that these people can give. Now with Citizens United, there is some opportunity to give more through third-party groups, which has always been done, but at least it's marginally more transparent now. But we've tried to encourage more small dollar donors. What's interesting is major donors tend to be moderating in their influence over politicians. Small dollar donors are the exact opposite. Small dollar donors are not moderating, because the best way to get small dollar contributions is to tell them that the world's falling apart if the other guy wins. And so it's an interesting, we have less concern that small dollar donors are going to get undue influence over a politician individually, but in aggregate, they push candidates more to less compromise, whereas larger contributors tend to be more moderating.
What a fascinating insight. Again, just the opposite of what one might have thought, unless you're in the trenches like you are. Now, again, we are blessed to have people that sponsor the show. We're going to have more amazing Kurt on the other side. Don't go away. He's so wonderful and insightful. Be right back with this brief message.
What if you could shop at your favorite local stores, swipe your current credit card, and get extra cashback rewards? And what if you could also have donations sent to your favorite cause at no extra cost to you? What if this amazing program was absolutely free and very simple to set up? Well, What If is here. Welcome to Einstein Cares, where your everyday shopping gives you and your favorite cause extra money. It's fast, it's easy, and effortless.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved immortal beings, and good-looking people. If you're good-looking, so I was looking for and finding the good in abundance. His name is Kurt, and he and his wonderful wife, Kristen, not only the authors of an amazing book called Liberty Spenders, but they are giving us an insight into, certainly in the population of the United States of America, which, thank God, is still a very conservative, religiously oriented country in the true sense of caring about God, country, and neighbors. That's how I'm going to say it. It's the influence of people who actually care about other people, that they want to support businesses that align with their values. So we're talking about value-driven, not just investors, but people who buy. And actually, they are investors in this case.
Yeah.
They're investing their hard-earned money, whether they're buying a chicken sandwich, a cell phone, a cup of coffee, or maybe from a real estate agent. Whatever it is.
Absolutely.
So tell us more about, if you can, an interesting group that you examined in these 76.5 million people that either you didn't think was there, or when you saw them, you said, well, that's interesting. Was there anything that popped out that you didn't think was there?
Yeah, I was surprised at the sheer number of them, because what we were looking for was people who didn't just casually care about values, like when it was easy. Right. We all can make a good values decision when it's easy, right? When it's just, door A or door B. But these are the kinds of people who are willing to endure some hardship, some inconvenience, some additional spending to see something good happen. So that was the thing I found more interesting. I was not expecting to find that this audience was so big. The second thing that I did find interesting, just sort of demographically, it's pretty straight down the middle, male and female. So we're not talking about some sort of massive demographic, change. These are pretty, these people who are Liberty spenders look a lot like your neighbors. They're pretty right down the middle, male, female. They're right down the middle, average income. They actually tilt a little bit, very well distributed amongst the age and income brackets. So it's really reflective of the American population. I think the most humorous thing I found, which made, not as helpful as it is funny, was they over-index for cat ownership. And so
that could be a bad story we could tell about one of the candidates mentioned cats. Okay. So we'll call them pets for the moment, but you're saying specifically cats.
Yeah, they over.
More so than dogs. I would have thought dogs more.
Yeah, I would have thought dogs too. I was surprised by that. We actually put that in our book just for humor. It's listed as one of the stats in there, but they're more likely to own cats than the average American. Which I thought I would have thought dogs. But it's a lot of family people. They're married. They have kids.
Oh,
They're
good. I'm
buying.
just going to ask you about
Yeah.
this. We're talking generally speaking about people that are married, people that are not just married, but have maybe even kids, a plural,
Yes.
at least
Yeah.
two. And that tends to be more of this grouping that you're talking about. Again, maybe people like homeschoolers and things like that. Is that true? Or or homeschoolers also divided?
Well, I'd have to look at the stats on homeschoolers, but I would imagine that we'd see a very, very, very sizable homeschool contingent within this Liberty Spender audience, because your homeschoolers in general are going to tend a little more faith oriented than the general population. And so they're going to be very likely to be Liberty Spenders. We actually looked at two factors within them: people who cared that a company had conservative values, so more of a political interest, and people who cared about Christian values. I'd love to dig deeper in sort of libertarian and privacy, because I'm kind of curious where that grabs people. But about 45 million of the 76.5 are both. And then the rest of the 30 million have one or the other. So there's an extra 15 million on top of the 45 who care about Christian values, but they don't really care about a company's political values. And then there's another 15 million who care about a company's political values and don't really care about their faith values. And so, and that's not to say that, and I use the word Christian because we asked specifically about this, but there's a lot of people in that Liberty Spender audience who are of other faiths, Jewish, Muslim, whatever, because there's a lot of moral crossover between those faiths. But I found that interesting that there are people who cared about, one, not the other, right? And it was a little bit bigger than I thought.
Actually. That is also that is fascinating. But maybe that all goes to the basic T word that you mentioned, trust.
Yeah. Well,
really
and I also
goes with trust.
I think it also goes with some people are more comfortable talking about their religion and not their politics, and vice versa. When Chris and I used to joke, we used to have a rule when we met a contractor or someone like that who put a too large emphasis on their faith, we would often question if that was being done in a manipulative way and not a true one, right? Because I had that experience in my life where I felt like somebody was overcompensating on faith for probably a lack of integrity. And so I do think there's a segment of this group that cares about a company's Christian values, but they don't want them to talk about it, which is because they just feel like that's a little, we just had somebody on our show, very faith-oriented company. They just they don't want to touch the political side of the conversation, which is perfectly fine. So in their world, talking about Christianity and their faith really publicly, they are really comfortable with that, but they don't want to touch on who they voted for. And then I see the opposite. People really want to know where people's political values align, but don't really care so much about their faith.
Wow. People are so wonderful because we're so complex. And again, the genius and the beauty of the American experience is that this all works here. In other words, we still have a country where people can live openly and worship and speak about these things and not be afraid that crowds will be coming after them with clubs and beating them and
right.
Which does happen in a lot of countries.
Yeah. I'll tell you, if I could have a wish for a lot of Americans, it would be that they get to be a political consultant for a few weeks and work in some other country. I have always appreciated America. I appreciated her a ton more when I worked on political campaigns in Ireland and in Europe. And you realize there are days when I think we're broken here in certain areas. And then I experience what it's like other places, and we are so much better. The concept of freedom that Americans have, And the concept of freedom that that Europe have cannot be any more different than they are. And I thought it was fascinating when J.D. Vance called Europe out on it, and it's so crazy. But working in politics over there, I would get they ban political advertising from their opponents.
Okay, this is so fascinating, and you're leading me into the next few words that I have to say, which I'm loath to say. We're coming to a close on our time together, Kurt. So yes. I have 3 quick questions for you.
Yes.
And the first one is relating to what we just talked about. Number 1, ready?
Yes.
Will you come back again?
I'd love to.
Okay, great. Now, number 2, you actually sort of answered, but I want you to think about it again. You only have 80 seconds to answer this question. Kurt, what is your most fervent desire?
I think my most fervent desire is to have a deep, fulfilling, and completely open relationship with God. And to have that intimacy that I love what they say about David in the Bible. He was a man after God's own heart.
Thank you. And number 3, may I give you a hug in front of 511,927 people around the world? Let me tell you what HUG stands for. Heartfelt, unlimited giving. Are you ready, sir? 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
And again, you're listening to The Joy of Living with home host Barry Shore and our amazing guest, wonderful Kurt Luidhart, and his wonderful wife, Kristen, who's not there, but she's there because she's always there. And you remember we talked about the 3 fundamentals of life. Number 1, life. Your life has purpose. And number 2, you lead a purposeful life, purpose-driven life. You go mad like Kurt is, making a difference. Number 3, to unlock the power and the sequence of everyday words and terms. You'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. www, what a wonderful world. Smile, seeing miracles in life every day, as my 8-year-old niece says, seeing miracles in everyday life. Create the kind of world you want to live in, causing rethinking, enabling all to excel. And remember, we want to use 4-letter words. Remember the ones we use. Go live in the world of positive, purposeful, powerful, and pleasant. Love, life, hope, play, pray, free, gift, swim, and tell the world to F you. Capital N, put a smile on your face, twinkle in your eye, and you get people's attention. What'd you learn? Wow, what did I learn? Wait, now you can share with people. And remember to use the 2 most powerful words in the English language 3 times a day from now and the rest of your life. And again, you'll be happier, healthier, and wealthier. I guarantee it, or your money back. Double your money back. And these 2 words are thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks stands for to harmonize and nurture kindness. So again, a blessing coming from Kurt and from Barry. And it is, go forth, live exuberantly, spread the seeds of joy, happiness, peace, and love. Go mad. Go make a difference. Kurt, don't go away.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Joy of Living podcast. Now that's another step towards your healthier, happier, and wealthier life. Never hesitate to do good in the world, no matter what the situation. Join us for another upbeat discussion next time at barryshore.com. And be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to the show to get more conversations like this. And remember to share it with your family and friends too. See you on the next episode.